The legend of El Dorado is one of the deepest mysteries ever born from the meeting of worlds. It is not simply a story about gold or forgotten kings. It is a story about humanity's hunger for hope, its obsession with the unknown, its willingness to sacrifice everything for a dream, and the way myths transform across cultures. This is the tale of a legend that consumed continents, destroyed armies, shaped empires, and yet was never what anyone believed it to be. Long before Europeans crossed the Atlantic, the land that would one day become Colombia, Venezuela, and the Amazon basin was home to complex civilizations, rich in art, astronomy, agriculture, and spiritual tradition. Gold played a vital role, but not in the way outsiders would imagine. To indigenous civilizations like the Muisca, Tairona, and Calima cultures, gold was not currency. It was a sacred material believed to contain the energy of the sun. Wearing gold meant carrying light. Offering gold meant returning power to the gods. Among the Muisca people, high in the mountains of the Andean Plateau, a sacred ritual existed, an ancient coronation ceremony for a new sipa or ruler. This ritual would later be twisted into something else, birthing the legend that spread across the world. When a new ruler was chosen, priests would cover his entire body with powdered gold. His skin transformed into a shimmering representation of the sun god. Accompanied by thousands of followers, he would sail to the center of Lake Guatavica on a ceremonial raft made of reeds, decorated with torches, feathers, jaguar skins, emeralds, and sacred symbols. As the raft reached the middle, music echoed across the water. Flutes, drums, chants, and the ancient rhythm of a civilization in harmony with nature filled the air. Then, in a solemn moment, the golden ruler lowered himself into the lake. The gold dust washed away in waves, sparkling like a universe of stars dancing across the water's surface. Offerings of gold and emeralds were cast into the depths as gifts to the deities who protected the land. This ritual was meant to honor the gods, not impress outsiders. But when stories of this golden man, El Hombre Dorado, spread from village to village, they transformed into something larger than life. And when these stories reached the ears of European conquerors, they ignited an obsession unlike anything the world had ever seen. The 16th century was a time of conquest fueled by greed, ambition, and desperation. Spain had already seized enormous wealth from the Aztec and Inca empires. The possibility of an even greater treasure, a kingdom made entirely of gold, sent shockwaves through Europe. Soon every adventurer, nobleman, and soldier wanted to claim the glory of discovering the Golden Empire. The first major hunt began with Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada in 1536. Setting out from Santa Marta, he led 900 men deep into the interior of Colombia. The journey was brutal. Swamps drowned horses. Insects spread diseases. Dense forests blocked sunlight, and rivers swallowed entire groups of soldiers. By the time Quesada reached the Muisca territory, only 166 men were still alive, but what they found amazed them. Villages decorated with gold ornaments, emeralds traded like simple stones, and temples shimmering with sacred objects. To Quesada, this was proof that something even greater existed further inland. He misunderstood everything he saw. The Muisca were not wealthy in the European sense. They were spiritual. Gold was not wealth to be hoarded. It was a sacred material to be offered. But Quesada's men did not care for spiritual meaning. They saw only signs pointing toward an unimaginable treasure. News of his discovery spread quickly. Other conquistadors rushed toward the mountains. Sebastián de Belalcázar came from the south, and Nicholas Federmann, a German adventurer, arrived from the east. They clashed, argued, negotiated, and ultimately returned to Spain believing that a golden kingdom still lay hidden in the unexplored lands beyond. Then came Gonzalo Pizarro and his lieutenant Francisco de Orellana. In 1541, they began one of history's most tragic expeditions. They marched east into the unknown, hearing rumors of a kingdom rich with cinnamon trees and gold beyond counting. They crossed the Andes, marched through mosquito-infested swamps, endured starvation, rain, heat, and exhaustion. Thousands perished. In a desperate move, Orellana sailed down a massive river that would later become known as the Amazon. His journey revealed the magnitude of the continent, but found no golden kingdom. Still, the legend refused to die. The story now shifted north toward Venezuela and the Guiana Shield, a landscape of ancient mountains, towering plateaus, thunderous waterfalls, and impenetrable jungles. Explorers believed that somewhere in this region lay Lake Parime, a massive lost lake upon whose shores stood the golden city of Manoa. The more that explorers failed, the more elaborate their imaginations became. Maps began to show the city, even though no one had ever seen it. Scholars wrote of it. Nobles funded missions. Artists painted it as a paradise of glowing temples. Each new rumor strengthened the legend. No one was more responsible for spreading this version of El Dorado than Sir Walter Raleigh. In the late 1590s, Raleigh sailed into the Orinoco River basin. He returned to Europe claiming he had found signs of the Golden City, although historians now know he was exaggerating or misled. His writings electrified England. Raleigh described a kingdom richer than any empire known to man, filled with golden statues, golden palaces, and rulers who bathed in gold dust. His descriptions were so vivid, they became accepted truth. When Raleigh returned years later for a second attempt, the expedition ended in disaster. His son was killed in a skirmish. The mission failed. Raleigh returned to England and was executed shortly after. Many consider him one of the most tragic victims of the El Dorado myth. Centuries passed. Expedition after expedition vanished into jungles, mountains, valleys, and rivers. Some died from disease. Others were attacked by wildlife or hostile tribes. Some simply disappeared into the green world of the Amazon, never to be seen again. The legend consumed lives, money, and entire generations of explorers. And still, the myth lived on. Meanwhile, the indigenous communities who created the original ritual watched as foreigners tore apart their lakes, destroyed their sacred sites, and used violence in a desperate attempt to force truth from myth. In the 1500s, Spanish colonizers tried to drain Lake Guatavita by carving a massive trench through the hillside. The ground collapsed, killing workers. They found a few gold ornaments, but nothing close to the imagined treasure. In the early 1900s, British companies attempted again, using modern pumps and machinery. The lake was partially drained, revealing mud, broken artifacts, and small pieces of gold. But the great treasure they hoped for remained a fantasy. The question grew louder. If no golden city existed, why did the legend persist for centuries? Archaeology provides the answer. In the last 30 years, new discoveries have completely changed our understanding of the Amazon. Using LiDAR technology, lasers that map the ground beneath the forest canopy, scientists have revealed massive ancient settlements underneath the jungle. These settlements include complex road networks, raised agricultural fields, ceremonial platforms, defensive structures, and evidence of large populations. The Amazon, once believed to be a pristine wilderness, was actually home to millions of people before European contact. Their civilizations rose, flourished, and declined long before anyone began searching for El Dorado. Some of these lost settlements match early descriptions: circular cities, central plazas, canals, and earthworks stretching for miles. While none of them are golden cities, they reveal that indigenous architecture and urban planning were far more advanced than Europeans realized. It is possible that stories of these abandoned cities contributed to the growing myth of El Dorado. To an outsider, even a city made of earth and wood could seem like the remains of a forgotten kingdom. So what, then, was El Dorado? The truth is layered. Part of the legend comes from the Muisca coronation ritual, real, documented, and sacred. Another part comes from rumors of ancient Amazonian settlements. Yet another part comes from European greed, imagination, and ambition. El Dorado became a mirror, reflecting the hopes and fears of every culture that believed in it. For indigenous people, El Dorado was a spiritual ceremony. For conquistadors, it was a source of endless wealth. For explorers, it was a destination that justified any sacrifice. For kingdoms, it was a symbol of power. For historians, it is a puzzle made of truth, lies, and exaggeration. For filmmakers, authors, and dreamers, it remains an eternal adventure. Today, Lake Guatavita still exists. Visitors can stand near its waters, imagining the ancient ceremony that took place there. The Amazon still hides secrets beneath its green canopy, cities swallowed by nature, waiting to be rediscovered. And the Guyana Highlands, with their towering tabletop mountains called tapuis, remain one of the most mysterious landscapes on Earth. Some explorers still wonder if something lies hidden there, perhaps not a golden kingdom, but something equally astonishing. Because El Dorado was never really about gold, it was about the human spirit. Gold is only metal. Cities crumble. Maps change. But the hunger to explore, to discover, to believe in the extraordinary, that is the real treasure. The search for El Dorado pushed humanity into places no one had dared to go. It expanded maps. It inspired stories. It revealed the strengths and weaknesses of entire civilizations. The legend of El Dorado endures because it speaks to something universal. People want to believe that somewhere in the world there is a place where miracles still exist, a place where the impossible becomes possible, a place untouched by time, hidden by nature, waiting for those brave enough to seek it. And that is why the story lives on, not as a geography, not as a kingdom, and not as a pile of gold at the bottom of a lake, but as a symbol of humanity's unending curiosity. The real El Dorado is not a city. It is a journey, one that continues through every explorer, every archaeologist, every adventurer, and every dreamer who looks at a map and wonders what lies beyond the edges. Even now, new evidence emerges. Ancient roads, sunken temples, forgotten cultures. Each discovery reshapes the legend. Perhaps the old explorers were wrong about gold, but right about something greater being hidden in the heart of South America. As long as jungles remain uncharted, as long as lakes hide their depths, as long as mountains pierce the clouds, and as long as humanity continues to dream, El Dorado will never disappear. It is alive in every mystery, every unanswered question, every unexplored valley, and every story told across generations. The legend endures. The journey continues. El Dorado lives, not in gold, but in those who seek it.